the star of this show is really the Pixi Dust Designs Beach Day Slimline. This is a set that comes with a ton of dies, including this scenic slimline die that gives you an ocean scene that can actually, I think, be used two ways. So I'm going to show you probably not the original way you would think to use this. Ideally, this would be sand, right? And then you would have an ocean scene here. There's actually examples on the back of the packaging. So you have a little beach scene, then ocean, sky, super cute, right? I love this, and I've made a card just like this. But I wanted to do something a little different, and I'm going to turn it upside down to make it look like the ocean is coming in. And I'm going to use my gel press while I do it to show you guys how you can use acrylic paints to get a really cool gradient for an ocean and then add some texture using the dies. Stay tuned. So first things first, I had to cut my die out of some white cardstock. This is, I believe, 80-pound accent. It's a really smooth cardstock, not super heavy, but not super light either. It's pretty much my go-to for most of my paper crafting when I know I'm going to be layering it on card bases. So it doesn't warp a whole lot, which is my biggest thing when I'm using my gel press, because gel press can have a lot of moisture involved, especially when you're going to use acrylic paints instead of inks. So this is going to be my water kind of washing up onto a beach to give you a visual of how I'm going to be doing this card. So let me go ahead and bring on my gel press. Okay, so sorry about the glare, but I use my Tim Holtz glass mat typically when I do my gel press because two reasons: super easy cleanup, and it kind of sticks to my glass mat and doesn't slide around. Protects my craft mat under it because acrylic paint isn't typically the easiest for me to clean off of it. Okay, so my acrylic paints are nothing special, nothing expensive. These are actually all from the Dollar Tree. Their craft section, as most of us have realized, has expanded in the last year or so. They have a lot of things. I find these really good for simple gel press. So I'm going to start with a little bit of dark blue towards my bottom to come into a little bit of turquoise there. It was actually a lot more paint than I meant. So I'm going to start just by spreading the dark blue out pretty thin. If I get too much on my roller, I rub it off on my glass mat. And then I'm going to go ahead and build into this. So I sped this up because gel press can take a little bit of time to get the blends you want. And if you put too much paint on, it takes a little bit to kind of lift some of that off, which is what you're kind of seeing me do here, is I'm working it down to a really thin layer. So I worked it down to a pretty thin layer. I did that intentionally because I'm going to add white over it to give it more of a speckled look. With gel press, when you're going to do layered gel press, you are actually going to let this first layer dry completely. So we're going to go ahead and let that happen. It happens pretty quickly. And then once that is dry, I will move on to adding the layer of white and then lifting the print. Okay, so now that this is dry, I know that because I can lightly touch it and nothing's coming up on my finger. We're going to add just a little bit of the white. You don't want to be super heavy-handed with this, so I'm actually going to start it at the top so I can smooth it out onto my roller first. And then I'm going to bring it down over. Maybe just a little more. Oh, way too much. It's okay, we'll just leave it up there. And this is just gonna build a light layer behind for us to lift off of. So I'm gonna go ahead and place, get some white texture at the top. I'm gonna start there. I'm just gonna smooth it out. And I'm taking my roller and kind of dabbing some of this white into up here, because I'm going to do a second pull of the print right at the top. So first pull, gave us that beautiful little ocean, and then I'm just going to take my edges here and add some movement to the edge. So I actually want some darker blue at the bottom, right? It lifted off a little too light for me. I went just a little darker. We're gonna come in make sure I still get some of the turquoise in. And that gave us darker. Okay, so now we're back with our ocean piece that we did, and I am going to add some texture to the waves. Remembering our scene is actually, yeah, it's coming up like this, so our land is up here, so I want waves kind of crashing in that direction. I took 2 of the edge dies, decorative edge dies that come in this die set. One makes this really cute shape like, I guess, a wave shape. I don't know what else to call it, like a scalloped wave shape. And then this is just that natural scallop that we also see for sea. I'm going to use both of those and bring in some white ink. And a sponge dauber. And I'm just going to bring in a scratch piece. I want to start with this one. I'm going to pounce and use it kind of as a stencil in spots. I don't want it all the way across, and I don't even want it in like normal spots. I just wanted to add, and then I'm going to come in and do the same thing. And then you can actually just take this. I'm actually going to come in heavier on my edge to make it look like a sans serif type thing. And we'll also do this a little bit on our ground one too. I feel like it needs something right at the bottom. Just maybe a little bit right there. And right there. So it's just another way, I'm gonna pounce a little bit. Another way to add some texture and use your dies in a different way. I can actually save this and use it as a stencil on other projects, so I'll just slip it in with my dies and I'll have it for a future project. You could do this to ink blend a whole background, like if I wanted to, let's flip over this and I'll just grab a nearby brush. So that this is without inking up my brush at all. But you could easily stencil a whole ocean background with just a little bit of staggering. Same with this one. This actually ends up looking a little bit like mermaid scales to me. And you get texture in a whole different way. So it just stretches your dies that much more. So now we're going to move on to our land. I'm going to ink blend the land with some Distressed Oxide inks, but I didn't want to actually leave the frame on because I didn't quite know what to do with the white edge that surrounded the water. So for this project, I chose to cut it out actually with a craft knife, just going along the embossed edge of the die. For my sand, I'm going to use tea dye and a blending brush. Bring in my scratched piece of paper. I sped up the ink blending because really it is all with that tea dye ink. I am just being super messy about it. I don't want a smooth blend. I'm actually going back in and bouncing my blending brush to get more of the bristle type texture to it. And then I'm coming in with a white pigment ink and just coming across that top shoreline. Doing that allows a smoother transition from the ocean to the land. Giving our scene a little more completion. I actually plan on keeping this card super simple. There is all those dies that come with this die set and they could be super cute, but I'm just gonna add a sentiment. Like there's the crab, there's the sailboat, there's a sun. Since I flipped the image and made it to where the sea is crashing in, I don't want to deter a whole lot from there. But you absolutely could. Like maybe a little crab there would look cute. But in my head, my original project is just gonna have a sentiment. My sentiment's gonna come from the Pandastic set, and I'm going to use You Are Loved. This set has quite a few cute sentiments. You Are Awesome would also work. Dream Big Little Pandas, super cute pandas here. Sending panda hugs, You Are Pandastic. Super fun. But I'm actually sending this to a friend who absolutely loves the ocean, and I absolutely loved them. So I'm going to stick with You Are Loved. After the sentiment's been stamped, all that's left together is to mount our scene onto a slimline card base. I am just using a wet adhesive. It gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And the important part is when you lay down, you want to make sure on that bottom part, all three sides are the same, because that's going to mean the math for the top is the same too, leaving your scene perfectly centered. You just nestle back in the die together and it will complete the scene. And that finishes the card for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really hope you enjoyed the project. If you did, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below and check out the other videos on our YouTube channel for more inspiration. Until next time, bye-bye.